Let's go to number 2, which is called verbal affection, and physical affection, number 3. But let's just take a few minutes on verbal affection. Let's read it together. Praise internals. Now, what does that mean? What's praise externals? Yeah. Praising externals is performances and appearances. You get that? When I was a little boy in kindergarten, I had a teacher named Miss McKenna. She was tall and skinny. She had a long neck and a long torso. And she had long fingernails. And she had black hair, brown eyes, and dark skin. And she was the first female that was ever nice to me and didn't slap me or put me down. And of course, at age 5, I loved her. I dreamt about her. To me, she was an angel from heaven, right? She could do no wrong. And I prayed that she would be my first grade teacher. And it came true. Something happened to Miss McCauley she couldn't teach, and Miss McKenna was my teacher. I was the happiest boy in the world. I used to run to school early to get away from the home thing, to get to school where she loved me. And she liked me. And when I was in therapy at age 25, my therapist once said to me, "Hey, Sterling, how come only girls you take out have long necks, long torsos, dark hair, brown eyes, and long fingers?" I don't know, I take out blondes. And she'd always say this, "I don't think you're being honest with your dynamics." Because we'd have, doctoral candidates parties, and I'd always bring these dark people. And she wanted me to get down to it. And she had me finish sentences, and finally, Miss McKenna. That was my search model for a beautiful woman. And I was missing out on all these wonderful ladies that had blonde hair. All because of that. So you see, praising externals. I would go for the externals, and I would miss internals. What would internals be? I love the way you are interested in this stuff. I love the fact that you want to grow and learn. Right? You're gentle and kind. You love people. You're soft. You don't want to die dumb. That's praising internals instead of, "Hey, Steph, you're my beauty. You got a long nose and black hair and long, whoa, right? But I love Steph because she also likes to learn and grow, and you got to be aware of that. And that comes from praising internals over externals. So when you praise your children, it's okay to praise externals, but also praise internals. I had a daughter, I still have her. She was very, very beautiful. And all the boys used to go gaga about her. And when she was 15 or 14 or something, she said to me one day, "Dad, what should I say to guys that tell me how beautiful I am?" And so I said, "Julie, say to them, would you love me if I was ugly?" So she started saying it. And about a month later, I said, "How's your experiment coming?" She said, "You know what, Dad? Not one boy has said yes." I said, "I hope you dumped him." I did. You don't want to be loved for your externals. Why? I mean, if my wife had loved me for my blonde, bushy, curly hair, look at this mess now. It's all gone, right? And if I got real fat, or I getting old and wrinkles, and like President Hinckley says, the body's going down, the spirit's going up, she'd be out of love with me. So externals don't last. You can praise them, but remember to praise the internals more because they'll last forever. Okay, praise internals. What's reassurance? I think you can do it. My therapist used to say to me when I really couldn't do something she wanted me to do, Sterling, I have patients dumber than you who do this. And I'd say, Joe, her name was Josephine, don't say that to me. But it did make me want to do it. If other patients of hers could do it, I could do it. Namely, get in your real self. She used to do something else I dearly loved. I'd ask her a question sometimes, and it was a lot alike about why is there something instead of nothing. And sometimes, when she knew I really wanted to know how she felt, she would go like this. She'd put her hand over her eyes. Sometimes she'd even turn her back and look out the window. And I'd say, what are you doing? I'm getting with myself to find the answer. Isn't that beautiful? I'm going to go inside and see. And I thought, what do you have inside of there? I couldn't do that. Why? My feelings were squashed from the time I was born. My mother died. I didn't have all the stuff I'm trying to teach you guys. And when I did, it was a mess. She could go inside. I'm getting with myself and see. I wanted to be like that so bad. If she can do it, I can do it. What would she do? Well, I'll go inside and ask myself and see. She could do that. I couldn't. Reassurance, appreciation, encouragement. In one of the great summaries of a great Christian faith, there's a Strength of You pamphlet. Strength of You, called Strength of Youth. Now, I want to read just a little paragraph here as far as verbal affection is concerned. Listen to this. It's on page 22. How you speak says much about who you are. Clean and intelligent language is evidence of a bright and wholesome mind. Listen to this. This reminds me of Thumper. Who knows what Thumper said to Bambi? My mommy said that... If you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. My mommy said, if you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. And this is verbal affection. Use language, see if you can write these down, that uplifts, encourages, and compliments. Uplifts, encourages, compliments. Listen to this. Do not insult others or put them down, even in joking. Even in joking.
Could we say especially in joking?
Yeah.
We could, because have you ever had someone putting you down and you catch them and say, hey, don't put me down. I'm really a good person. You know that? And they say, oh, I was just joking. That makes it even worse, right? You're the joke, buddy. Okay, now, speak kindly and positively about others so you can fulfill the Lord's commandment to love one another. Isn't that the whole idea? So there's a great description of love supply number 2, verbal affection. This great Christian faith now has a manual, Strength of Youth, for adults. They're the same size. Only they're like a teenager. They're this thin, and the adults. How many of you have this, true to the faith? This comes out over the signature of your prophet, right? Just like this. It even says this should be a companion to your scriptures. There are some beautiful things in here, and here's one about a number 2 love supply. No, this is about listening to your insides. You know, one day it was given to me that the forces of negative or evil come to us by the same exact avenue as the forces of good. Or, to say another way, revelation from God comes to you through the same avenue as revelation from Satan. Namely, Here's the avenue. Thoughts. I know that's not the way it's spelled. Feelings. Words. And acts. Thoughts, feelings, words, and acts. You have a negative thought. You multiply it or repeat it and own it and keep it and say, I think that. It'll turn into a feeling. It'll turn into a word. It'll turn into an act. One of your leaders says, there is such a thing as a thought sin, a feeling sin, a word sin, and an act sin. Whoa. You know what, Doc? I don't even think about what I'm thinking. I know, Eric. Thoughts, feelings, words, and acts. And so, impressions, ideas, thoughts, feelings can come from the negative self. In our book, I hope you all get a book. There's a whole bunch of books out there. Be sure you get one. I think it's page 143. Negative self can be nourished by doing negative thought. Real self can be nourished by this. For instance, if you're full of fear, see if you can fill it with faith. We're going to talk about this later on. But thoughts, feelings, words, and acts can come from your negative self as well as your positive self. It's very important. Lots of people want to be able to do what my therapist could do. Recognize the promptings of the spirit, of yours, your real spirit, and others. Now here's a really great thing. God prompts us through our feelings. Although we often describe communication from God as a voice, that voice is one that we feel more than we hear. You that have this book, look on page 144. Feel more than we hear. I love this. And while we speak of listening to the whisperings of the Spirit, we often describe a spiritual prompting by saying, I had a feeling. Yes. Where it says that the Holy Ghost will come into your heart and you'll feel a burning in your bosom, and then it says, therefore you shall feel that is right. This warmth described in this scripture passage signifies a feeling of comfort and serenity, not necessarily a sensation of heat. As you continue to seek and follow these experiences in your life, you will come to recognize how God can influence you personally. Isn't that something? And so people who have their feelings and thoughts abused, put down, shot down, shamed, teased, betrayed, this avenue is going to be clogged up. And that's why praise is so important, especially of internals. Now, should you praise people if you don't really believe? No, you shouldn't. That's lying. So make it genuine and real. Here's verbal affection, reassurance, appreciation, encouragement. Why is it important to say, thank you very much, Peg? Or I'm sorry, could you find it in your heart to forgive me? What does that kind of talk imply about a human being? Yes. One man said, you know, I love the way the president of our corporation calls me to his office. Oh yeah, Dad? How does he call you? He says, Gordon, could you spare some time from your busy schedule to drop by my office? Why does he love that? This guy's the president, right? He shows you have a busy schedule. Is this okay with you? Can you? We used to have a sign, ask, don't tell. Come, sit. Ask, no. Could you spare some time? I know you're awfully busy. That's why it's good to say, you know, dinner will be ready in about 5 minutes, I hope. Your schedule, so you can get in here. Love you, Gene, right? And that's what it says here. Appreciation, encouragement. In these books it says, express gratitude for everything that you have. Even in your highest moments of adversity, there is much for you to be grateful for. Right? Be sure and say thank you for someone doing the slightest thing to you. A thankful person is a healthy person. It shows humility. It shows acknowledgement. We're grateful for these things. Be sure and say thank you. Please. Genuine courtesy, it says here. And now here's, and I love you. Now remember, don't use, is it in Hawaii where aloha means hello, goodbye, I love you? Mm-hmm. So don't just say, I love you, but also take time to really mean it. You know, I really love this about you. You're so curious. You really want to know. What a wonderful girl you are. I'm so glad that God sent you into my family. That's going to do what Brandon says. Makes you feel valuable, wanted, loved, cherished, instead of a hiss and a byword. You're an accident. You know that, Jenny? Questions to show interest and concern, and any body language showing I like you. If you ask some little kids, I remember in another skit where they had those kids up on the stage, and they were going around the circle telling each other what they liked. And the teacher said, how can you tell if a kid likes you? And one girl said, he gives me lifesavers. And then they were going around and telling something they liked. This made me almost cry. There was a boy in there with a huge mouth. But with that giant mouth, when he smiled, the whole room lit up. And his face. And when they went around that circle and each kid told something they liked about it, this one girl, I knew she was very popular. When she came to that kid, and he didn't like himself because people had called him buck teeth, they called him giant mouth, a vacuum cleaner, blah, blah, blah. When she came to him, she said, you know, I love Greg's mouth. That kid started to cry. That's something. So remember to praise people. Well, what's good about me? I'd come home, the kid was babysitting, she'd done all the dishes, she'd vacuumed the living room, and there'd be pots in the pan with water because she couldn't get all the junk off of them. And I'd say, Julie, why don't you clean the pots? Dad, what's good about me? That's what you got to do sometimes before a kid will wake you up. Oh, you vacuum, the kids are in bed, what a wonderful kid you are. I'm sorry, honey, I'll do the pots. You don't have to, right? Praise, very, very important. If only we know. If you can't say something good, don't say. If you want to criticize someone, shut your mouth. Zip your lip. Look for something good to say. When you're old, they'll come and visit you. And they'll call you on the phone and say, Daddy, shrink me. And if you don't, you'll be a lonely old lady or man. So get this business. I like you. Any body language to show I like you. How many of you know when you meet a person if they like you or not? And ask yourself, how do I know? Can anyone tell?
Usually by their body language.
Their body language. Their voice tone. They smile at me. Once I went to Taiwan once for something, and there was my ex-secretary was there with her little 4-year-old girl. And I do empathy with her. And once we were in a restaurant, and this little girl was always on my lap, pastoring me, stroking my hair, this or that. And finally the mom said, honey, could you leave Brother Ellsworth alone? He just came 17 hours on the plane. He's tired. And the little girl said, but Mommy, he really likes me. What will you, mincemeat? He really likes me. No, I mean, Mom, he really likes me. It's okay. And I says, she's right, Barbara. I love to hold her. I love to be. You know, kids are something. They're wonderful before they're brainwashed, right? Remember, the scriptures say, be like a little child, not a monster child, right? Genuine courtesy, I like you, concerns, and any body language showing, body language would be what? Language would be what? Language